If books could speak, today would be a story about awareness and awakening.
Hello, enlightened one. Why do I tend to procrastinate even more when it comes to important tasks? Is there something wrong deep down inside me?
It's not that I have a problem, but it's your brain that's betraying you.
Is my own brain betraying me?
That's right. The brain naturally always seeks comfort. It naturally reacts by resisting complex thoughts and change.
That's really strange. Why does the brain do that?
95% of brain activity occurs automatically. The purpose is to save energy.
So, the reason I procrastinate is because my brain wants to save its battery, right?
Exactly! The reason you always procrastinate is because your brain's energy-saving mode is working strongly.
Energy saving? Your brain is like a phone. Does it have this mode too?
That's right. Does not consume energy more than 10 times compared to other organs.
So, to save energy, it makes me lazy to think. Isn't that right?
Evolution has caused the instinctive brain to prevent deep thinking. That's why you always want to procrastinate difficult tasks.
So, why are there people who complete their work efficiently without any procrastination? Like my friend Mr. Peter, for example, he is very disciplined.
Because people like that know how to operate the brain according to its rules.
The operating rules? Does the brain even have an operating system?
Of course. They know how to break free from automatic thinking patterns and actively engage the deep thinking mode in their brain.
So that means your procrastination isn't because you're lazy, but because you haven't learned how to properly control your brain, right?
Exactly.
So how can I start to control it?
When you understand the 3 states of brain activity, you will be able to overcome cognitive limits and take control of your actions.
What are the 3 states of brain activity? Could you explain further?
This is extremely important. Those states are survival mode, default mode, and growth mode.
Sounds too complicated.
95% of people get stuck in the first 2 states. Only when they activate the 3rd state do they truly develop.
I also feel stuck in the first 2 states. Could you explain the characteristics of each state in more detail?
The survival mode focuses on the feeling of safety, like a self-defense instinct.
That's right, it's like the feeling of craving life. What about the default mode?
The default mode focused on comfort is exactly the state in which you stay the most.
I understand this all too well. What about the third type?
This is the most important development model. This development pattern aims at a sense of achievement, but you need to actively trigger it. It won't happen automatically.
It sounds like every day I'm just going around in the first 2 modes, right? Is this what is called the comfort zone?
That's right. Your brain always has a psychological comfort zone. Therefore, any action that goes beyond the comfort zone is instinctively resisted by the brain.
So is my constant watching of short videos related to this?
That's right. Watching short videos releases dopamine, giving the brain instant gratification. While studying or working, there is no immediate reward, so the brain doesn't want to choose that activity. The brain prefers things that provide immediate satisfaction, while the rewards from learning and work are usually slower.
Do tech companies rely on this principle to make us addicted?
You are really smart. Modern products have a deep understanding of the brain's reward system, allowing them to precisely control your attention so that you unconsciously get drawn into low-value behaviors.
That's scary. So how can we escape this state of being controlled? Is there any specific method?
The key is to develop metacognitive abilities.
Metacognition sounds like a fancy term.
It is the ability to think about one's own thoughts, like standing outside and observing what is happening inside one's mind.
Sounds difficult, doesn't it? How can an ordinary person train to develop that ability?
It's very simple. Every day, you just need to ask yourself, what am I thinking right now?
Is that all it takes?
That's right. Through daily self-reflection, intentionally pausing for a moment will help you detach from the flow of thoughts, allowing you to take control of your thinking instead of becoming a slave to it.
But I feel that even though I know these things, it's still hard to change. Just like knowing that smoking is harmful but still not being able to quit.
Because you still lack truly strong internal motivation.
What does intrinsic motivation mean?
Changes driven by external pressure are often not sustainable. You need to find the source of motivational energy from within yourself.
Is motivation intrinsic about doing what you love?
Not just that. You need to build a 3-tiered incentive system.
3-tier system? What do you mean?
That is, motivation from goals, motivation from values, and motivation from identity.
What is motivation from identity? It sounds a bit complicated. Let's take an example.
When you acknowledge that you are a lifelong learner, learning will no longer be something you do, but rather a part of who you are. Therefore, the change will occur more naturally and easily. The core here is to identify yourself in that way. Once you acknowledge this identity, you will automatically act according to its standards without needing much willpower.
That being said, to change the habit of procrastination, willpower is not enough. You need a deeper change in self-awareness.
That's right. Willpower is just a limited resource. Relying entirely on willpower to confront the brain's instincts will surely fail.
So what should we do?
Need to reprogram my own perception system. Sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, right? But this can be achieved by using subconscious programming technology, especially through the special state of the brain in the 15 minutes before sleep.
What is special about the 15 minutes before sleep?
Currently, the brain falls into a state between wakefulness and dreaming, making it very receptive to suggestions. So, instead of just planning for tomorrow, you need to emotionally imagine the scenes and feelings of completing the task.
Are feelings also important?
Yes, feelings play a crucial role. When you immerse yourself in specific emotions in your imagination, the subconscious will more easily accept them. So, this task doesn't just stop at listing the items, it must make the subconscious believe and accept the mission. This is precisely the way to exploit the back door of the brain, bypassing the conscious layer to establish an action model for the next day without relying much on willpower.
So, can this theory be applied to explain ineffective learning?
For example, after reading a book, I forget everything. This happens because you are stopping at the first level of learning, gathering information.
But there are other layers as well.
That's right. There are even higher levels in connecting and creating.
What is collecting, connecting, and creating? What do you mean? Could you explain in more detail?
Collection is the process of gathering information. The most basic forms of learning are reading books, listening to lectures, and so on. Connecting is when you relate new knowledge to existing knowledge, finding relationships or links between them. Creativity is when you publish your own perspectives, opinions, and understanding. Only when all three of these elements are combined can it be called deep learning.
Speaking of which, I guess I have to change my study method, but specifically, what should I do?
First of all, it is necessary to build a complete knowledge management system with 3 phases,
What are those stages?
including absorption, digestion, and output. Knowledge must form a closed loop rather than just being received in a one-way flow.
But I feel like I haven't even accomplished the most basic thing. That is to focus. Reading a book for 5 minutes makes me want to pick up my phone.
That's completely normal, because your attention is like a muscle. It needs to be trained to get stronger.
Can concentration be trained as well?
Certainly. You can use the Pomodoro technique to gradually extend your focus time and overcome the black hole of distraction.
I know the Pomodoro technique, but I can't stick with it. I get all fired up for a few days and then give up.
That's because you haven't developed the habit of reflecting, reviewing, after each action.
What is reminiscing?
It is the process of self-reflection, summarizing, and improving one's own methods. You need to create a positive cycle of action, reflection, and continuous adjustment.
Hearing you say that, I feel like many of our problems stem from not understanding how the brain works, so we keep applying the wrong methods and putting in effort that never pays off.
Absolutely correct. Just like a person who doesn't understand how a car works, but keeps pressing the accelerator hard without shifting gears, no matter how much they press the gas, they won't be able to accelerate on the highway. No matter how hard you try, you won't make much progress. Cognitive awakening is essentially understanding how the machine of the brain operates. It's like reading the user manual of the mind correctly.
Now, I understand why I used to put in so much effort, but never got anywhere. So from today, where should I start?
The first step to change is to recognize your default thinking patterns.
How to recognize it?
When you find yourself reacting automatically, pause for 3 seconds and ask yourself, can I make a better choice right now?
Just simply stop for 3 seconds and then ask yourself a question?
That's right. This small action is the starting point of awakening awareness. It will help you break out of your usual autopilot mode.
This method is so useful. It feels like a sudden awakening.
It turns out that instead of fighting against the brain, we should understand and leverage the way it operates. Therefore, awakening awareness is not the endpoint, but the beginning of a truly effective and meaningful life. Mastering the brain is the key to mastering destiny.
After hearing all this, it feels like life needs to start all over again. Thank you for sharing today.
No problem. Just remember, the first step of change is to understand how the brain operates, then become the master of your own mind, not its slave.
This book has truly changed my perspective. Everyone, please try sharing in the comments what your strange procrastination habits are. Next time, we will continue exploring the 7 habits of highly effective people. Don't forget to like and follow so you don't miss out.